Let me ask you something. When did you last have a conversation with your spouse, a real one, where you both actually felt heard? Not about the kids' schedule, not about the mortgage, not about who forgot to call the plumber. A real conversation where you laughed at the same thing or talked about your dreams or just sat in comfortable silence and felt close. If you had to think for more than 5 seconds to remember, this video is for you. Most marriages don't end with a dramatic blow-up. No screaming match, no obvious betrayal, no clear, this is the moment it broke. They die quietly, in the in-between moments, in the slow drift, in the things nobody says. And the most dangerous part, most couples are living inside a failing marriage right now, and they genuinely don't see it, because the signs don't look like what they think a failing marriage looks like. Today, I'm going to show you the 7 quiet signs that relationship therapists, marriage counselors, and researchers say are the true early warnings, the ones that come before the blow-up, before the resentment hardens into stone, before it's too late. Stay until sign number 5, because that one surprises almost everyone. Welcome back. If you're new here, I cover real research-backed psychology on relationships, mental health, and the things that actually matter in life. Now, before we get into the signs, I want you to promise yourself something. Watch this with honesty, not with fear, not looking for a reason to panic, but with the kind of honesty that only comes when you actually care about someone, because that's the whole point. Noticing these signs early isn't about confirming your worst fears. It's about catching what's slipping while you still can. Let's get into it. Sign 1. You've stopped being curious about each other. Here's a question that sounds simple but isn't. Do you know what's worrying your partner right now? Not 5 years ago, not in general. Right now, this week, what keeps them up at night? When couples first fall in love, they're obsessed with each other. They ask questions. They want to know everything. They remember the small things. They notice when something shifts. But over time, slowly, almost invisibly, that curiosity fades. You stop asking. You stop wondering. You assume you already know everything there is to know, and that assumption is quietly deadly. Dr. John Gottman, the most cited relationship researcher in the world, calls this your love maps, the mental map you hold of your partner's inner world, their fears, their hopes, their evolving sense of self. When couples stop updating that map, they start relating to an old version of each other, and eventually they realize they're living with a stranger. Notice this. If the last meaningful question you asked your partner was about logistics, not about their heart, that's the sign. The good news? Curiosity is a muscle. It can be rebuilt, but only if you notice it's gone. Sign 2. Small irritations feel like big offenses. Pay attention to how you react when your partner does something small and annoying. They leave a dish in the sink. They interrupt you mid-sentence. They forget something you mentioned. They breathe too loudly. Now, how do you feel? Mildly annoyed? Or something that feels more like disgust? Eye-rolling? A flash of, how does this person not get it? That second reaction has a name. Researchers call it contempt, and it is the single most accurate predictor of divorce ever identified. Contempt is different from frustration. Frustration says, I care about this and I want it to be better. Contempt says, I've already decided you're beneath me. It shows up as sarcasm, mocking, eye rolls, dismissiveness. It's the feeling that you're more competent, more emotionally intelligent, more mature than your partner. And once contempt takes hold, it rewrites history. You stop seeing your partner's good moments. You start interpreting everything they do through a negative lens. Every mistake confirms what you already believe. Here's the honest question. Is there a part of you that has quietly started to look down on your partner? If the answer is yes, even a little, that's not a reason to give up. That's a reason to act now. Sign 3. You're not fighting, but you're not connecting either. A lot of couples see the absence of fighting as a good sign. At least we're not arguing. But what if the silence isn't peace? What if it's just Distance. When couples enter what therapists call the emotional withdrawal phase, they stop fighting. Not because things are better, but because they've stopped caring enough to fight. The hurt is still there. The resentment is still there. But the energy to address it is gone. You become roommates. You share a space. You coordinate the household. You're polite, even kind, in a surface level way. But there's no depth, no vulnerability, no moments where you really reach for each other. Think about the last time you had a moment that surprised you, where your partner said or did something and you thought, "That's why I love you." If you're struggling to remember one recently, that's not nothing. That's information. Emotional connection in a marriage needs to be actively maintained. It doesn't survive on autopilot. And when two people stop reaching for each other, slowly, the space between them becomes a wall. Sign 4. Your future plans are quietly diverging. Here's one that people almost never talk about. Close your eyes and picture your life in 5 years. Where do you live? What does your day look like? What are you working toward? Now, is your partner in that vision, specifically, naturally, fully, or did you have to consciously add them in? When couples are connected, they build shared futures together. Their dreams evolve in the same direction. They compromise, they adjust, they check in. But in a quietly failing marriage, futures start to drift. Not because anyone decided to leave, but because nobody made the decision to stay together actively in the forward vision. One person starts dreaming about moving to another city. The other is building roots where they are. One is imagining a career pivot. The other never knew. One is quietly done with having kids. The other is still waiting to discuss it. These aren't small things. These are the foundational materials of a shared life. And when couples stop building that together, consciously, intentionally, they wake up one day and realize they want completely different things. When did you last talk, really talk, about where you both want to be in 5 years? Not what needs to happen this month, not what's practical, but what you actually want. Sign 5. You've started editing yourself around them. This is the sign almost nobody expects, and it might be the most important one. Think about the last time you had a strong feeling, excitement, fear, sadness, an opinion you were passionate about, and you thought about sharing it with your partner, and then you didn't. Not because you forgot, not because the moment passed, but because some quiet voice said, "It's not worth the reaction. They won't get it. It'll just become a whole thing." That's called self-silencing. And it's one of the most damaging patterns in a long-term relationship, because marriage, real marriage, requires you to be fully yourself, to be seen fully and still be chosen. The moment you start managing yourself down to keep the peace, you're not in an intimate relationship anymore. You're in a performance, and over time that performance exhausts you. You start feeling lonely, not alone, but lonely. You're surrounded by your person, but you can't fully breathe. Here's the honest check. Do you have thoughts, feelings, or dreams that you've stopped sharing with your partner, not because the time isn't right, but because you no longer believe they'll be received well? If yes, that gap between who you are and who you show up as around your spouse is a measure of how much connection is already eroded. Sign 6. Repair attempts don't work anymore. Every couple argues. Every couple has moments where one person hurts the other. What separates the couples who stay together from those who don't isn't whether conflict happens. It's what happens after. Healthy couples have what Gottman calls repair attempts. Small signals one partner sends to de-escalate, a joke that breaks the tension, a touch on the arm. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said it that way." A look that says, "We're okay." And in healthy marriages, the other person receives those attempts. They let them land. They choose to soften. But in failing marriages, repair attempts stop working. One person reaches and the other doesn't soften. The apology lands flat. The joke falls silent. The touch is barely registered. And eventually, people stop reaching. Why? Because they've been rejected too many times. The hurt has accumulated. The wall has grown thick enough that no small gesture can get through it anymore. Ask yourself, when your partner reaches for you after a conflict, do you let it in? And when you reach, do they? If repair attempts have stopped working in your relationship, that's not a sign of incompatibility. It's a sign that the hurt underneath needs to actually be addressed, not patched over. Sign 7, you've started keeping score. The last sign is subtle, and it sneaks up on most couples without them even realizing it. Do you find yourself mentally tracking who did what? Who gave more? Who sacrificed more this year? Who apologized last time? Who always brings up the hard conversations? Who never initiates? Scorekeeping is the death of generosity in a marriage. And generosity, genuine, uncalculated generosity, is the lifeblood of a long-term relationship. The willingness to give without keeping track, to do something kind without waiting for the receipt. When couples start keeping score, they've stopped being partners and started being adversaries. Every interaction becomes transactional. Every kindness has an expectation attached. Every sacrifice is a chip to be cashed in later. And the tragic thing is, the person keeping score usually believes they're being fair. They're just trying to balance an unbalanced ledger. But relationships aren't ledgers. They're living things. They breathe and shift, and sometimes one person needs more, and sometimes the other does. The couples who thrive have an implicit agreement. I give freely. I trust you'll do the same. The moment that trust is replaced by accounting, the intimacy has already left. If you recognized yourself in one of these signs, breathe. One sign doesn't mean your marriage is over. Even all 7 don't mean it's over. They mean that something that matters is asking for attention. And the fact that you watch this all the way through, that means something. That means some part of you still cares, still wants to fight for this. The couples who end up in the best marriages aren't the ones who never struggled. They're the ones who saw the drift early enough and decided to turn toward each other instead of away. What does turning toward look like? It starts with one honest conversation, not a confrontation, not a list of grievances, just, I miss you. I feel like we've drifted a little. Can we talk about it? 7 words. That's all it takes to begin. If you want a deeper guide on what those conversations actually look like, what to say, what to avoid, and how to rebuild connection even after years of distance, I've covered that in detail in the video coming up next. I'll link it right here. And if this video helped you, share it with someone who needed to hear it. You might not even know who needs it in your life right now. Take care of yourself and take care of the people you love. Before you go, drop a comment below with one word that describes where your relationship is right now. Just one word. I read every single one, and it helps me understand what you need next. If this video was valuable to you, subscribe. I post every week on the psychology of relationships, self-growth, and emotional well-being. See you in the next one.